Alright guys, so we finally received confirmation for the release dates of both the Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl titles, as well as Pokemon Legends Arceus. Particularly in the case of the latter, I do have some concerns, and today's video is going to sort of explain why. So buckle up and let's dive right in. Okay, so firstly, the Gen 4 remakes are scheduled for launch on November 19th of this year, which is totally standard, not really much to say there. The Pokemon Legends game, however, is scheduled for release on January 28th, which is only 2 months later, which to me says a few things. Firstly, with how early in the year this is, the game footage we saw is most definitely going to be basically the same as the final product, like what we saw with Sword and Shield's E3 footage versus how the game looked at launch. I don't see it being much different. We've never seen drastic changes to performance and stuff like that in Pokemon, especially in such a short amount of time. So if that 2 FPS chingling really bugged you, you're probably not going to be very happy. That said, to me, this honestly isn't really a death sentence. I'm a person who cares mostly about content, which we will touch on a little bit later. But I wanted to touch on this aspect first. So a lot of people will argue that since another company is working on the Diamond and Pearl games, then Gamefreak should have, more time to get things really right this time around. But that simply isn't the case. If Gamefreak was working on Diamond and Pearl, they'd have to get a game out in November, and now it's January. But they're also at a disadvantage because they don't have a base or a reference to work with like the remakes do, and they're also taking a big risk with the formula, with the title being completely different from what they're used to. You'd think that this game at the very least would require a 2022 end of year release date, but it simply doesn't. And we knew this, but we didn't know how early in the year it was going to be. Back to what I was saying a second ago about what this tells us, my theory is that Generation 9 is probably coming late 2022, as has been the 3-year cycle, which truly has been the nail in the coffin for the series. I oftentimes see arguments about the anime and the TCG needing to come out, and that's why they have to come out with games so quick, but I totally disagree for 2 major reasons. Number one, just because they can make even more money by rushing out their merch and their cards and whatnot, doesn't mean that they should, or nor does it justify a subpar product. And number two, up until Gen 5, they had 4-year cycles, and that worked fine. The anime is especially oftentimes used as an excuse for the 3-year terms, but this was never an issue before, with the anime having the Orange Islands, the Battle Frontier, etc. The idea is that the anime constantly needs new Pokemon to expand its lore, and that's honestly ludicrous considering that some of the best Pokemon mediums haven't thrown us new Pokemon. They've actually just expanded the world as a whole. Like I had mentioned, in the anime, we got something like the Orange Islands, or if you want to talk about the games department, look at Colosseum and XD. These are amazing spin-off titles that didn't give us new Pokemon. You don't need new Pokemon to make a game necessarily. You can have new regions, you can have new areas, you can have new stories about certain Pokemon, etc. The 3-year cycle just makes each generation feel less impressive, less memorable, and overall just same-ish, with the last 2 especially feeling like they kind of blended together. Generation 7 and 8 honestly don't really feel like separate generations, and you almost feel like there's been a regression in quality as opposed to a progression. That said, to get back on topic, Legends Arceus does not seem to be getting enough time required for the type of game that it is. It's an open world experience, and that said, they have roughly the same amount of time to create this game as they did with any other title. Now, I can go on a whole rant about how not every game needs to be open world. It seems like everybody just thinks they just slap open world on a game and it just makes it good. That's definitely not the case. But this really does concern me because I don't want a game that feels empty. There's so many open world games out there that just feel empty, and you don't need a big open world to have a good game. Pokemon doesn't need to be open world, and if they're gonna go the open world route, it needs to be fully fleshed out. And I just don't see how they're gonna do that given their track record and given what we've seen in games that aren't open world in terms of lack of content. To be concerned about this is definitely justified, no matter what your opinion is on recent games, particularly Sword and Shield. There's so many things that were either cut or overlooked in that set of games, whether or not you personally enjoyed it. So if you did, you should at least understand why others did not, with the cut Pokemon, the forums, the features, etc. That stuff might not be important to you, but it does exemplify how we're getting less content in our games. Anyways, I did want to kind of touch on like what's going on in the community. The Pokemon community is in a little bit of a tender spot right now, and for many this is like the last chance they're going to give Pokemon before they move on, and it's honestly like the company knows this and just doesn't care. Yes, they'll continue to make money, and yes, they'll keep bringing in new fans, and they're always going to be on top. Nobody's going to kill Pokemon. But there's just so much more they could earn by appealing to all fans rather than the lowest common denominator. If they just put in the extra time to implement more features into, let's say, Sword and Shield or these Diamond and Pearl remakes like the Battle Frontier, Megas, etc., they could have even more sales and, more importantly, create a deeper level of brand loyalty from the fans. Anyways, this is all to say that given the track record of the Pokemon Company, I'm extremely skeptical about the amount of time that they're giving Gamefreak to make this game and whether or not it's sufficient. It doesn't help that Gamefreak has had issues with optimization since the first generation of Pokemon, and being tasked with creating an open world game in and of itself is troubling. But now it seems downright concerning. Now, I know I'm going to see it in the comment section that we don't know what the game is and what's going on within the game. We've just seen a trailer, and that's definitely fair. However, if you do think about the PR standpoint of what's happening right now, the Pokemon Company is letting a lot of people down. A lot of people did not like the art style present within the Diamond and Pearl remakes. I personally don't mind it at all, but I can understand why people would prefer it look like the current generation in which the game supposedly resides in, regardless of pop-in and other issues that the Swish engine has. That said, they introduced a controversial art style, essentially tell people that the Diamond and Pearl remakes are going to be one-to-one, which we do know that they're not technically going to be that, just because we did see some Platinum NPCs, but that doesn't really tell us much. Anyways, then they go radio silent until recently. Now, yes, that's usually what they do, but this is a very different time. With the situation that we're currently in, with the way fans are feeling towards the company right now, you'd think that much like they're changing the formula of their games and sort of mixing things up, they do the same with public relations. You have an aging audience who aren't these little kids anymore, and you can't keep trying to bathe people with nostalgia forever because eventually it runs out. I know a lot of people have Gen 1 exhaustion, where Gen 1 almost doesn't even feel nostalgic anymore. If these Diamond and Pearl remakes are truly one-to-one remakes, people are not going to like them. When a game like Pokemon Platinum has way more features than Diamond and Pearl do, and if you say, well, they're supposed to be remakes of the originals, that's not true, because up until this point, we have not seen a remake that has less features than the third version. See, it's really kind of a lose-lose situation with regards to Diamond and Pearl, because if the games actually do have a good amount of content, then they were just withholding information, allowing their fans to become more and more upset and disinterested with their products. And if it is literally just Diamond and Pearl but on the Switch, it's going to be the only remake that has less features than, like I said, the third installment of that generation. Fire Red and Leaf Green brought forth the Sevi Isles, the ability mechanic from Gen 3 alongside 386 Pokemon. Heart Gold and Soul Silver brought forth 493 Pokemon, the Safari Zone, the Battle Frontier, even just random stuff like mini games and the Shiny Leafs, and just they packed it up with content because they really wanted the game to be the best it could be. Even in ORAS, which is where I noticed some of the cuts like to the Battle Frontier from Emerald, even in that game, it still features the Delta episode, Mega Evolution, 721 Pokemon, etc. If these games are simply Diamond and Pearl remade, then they'll have less content than Pokemon Platinum, making them pointless to buy, as the main reason someone would buy a remake of a Pokemon game are for the upgraded visuals, which are already controversial, the extra content, which it may or may not have, and having new Pokemon in the region, which they've already stated we're not going to have. Or at least that's the reason I tend to buy them. Anyways, the point I'm trying to make here is that the Pokemon Company seems to be very tone deaf when it comes to its older fans, and I think that may unfortunately be proven again with Legends Arceus, given its narrow development time and what seems to be a rush into Gen 9 for the sake of maximizing profit at the cost of quality and integrity. Now, I'd absolutely love to be wrong, that's great, but even if I am, and even if many people who are concerned are wrong, they're justified in how they feel based on past behaviors, and the onus is on Pokemon to prove us otherwise, and not for us to cover our eyes and pretend we don't notice these red flags. That said, what do you guys think about this whole situation? Excited for these games, skeptical, neutral, etc.? Let me know in the comment section below, and for more Pokemon and of course Monster Taming content, definitely make sure to like and subscribe, follow me on Twitter, GymLeaderEd, and you can check out our Discord. All links will be in the description. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.